is causing diplomatic uproar.
I was so upset and so angry that I said to myself, for Sergei, for his memory, and for his family, I'm going to make sure that we get justice.
Tonight on Panorama, the Russian crime war that has reached the UK.
I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
St. George's Hill, Surrey. They call it the UK's Beverly Hills. John Lennon and Didier Drogba have lived here. Security couldn't be tighter. It's an unusual place for a murder, but that's exactly what some people think happened here.
Walked to the gate and I could see the body in the road. We rolled him over and started CPR straight away.
Was there any sign of him recovering at all? No?
No sign at all, no.
The man lying in the road was a 44-year-old Ukrainian businessman called Alexander Perepelichny.
None of the people that came out and were on the scene knew who he was or had seen him before.
What do local people think?
Everybody locally, their first word was he was murdered.
More than 5 months later, that's what many people are still thinking. That's because of Alexander Perepelichny's association with this man. He's a multi-millionaire and UK citizen, but he's a wanted man in President Putin's Russia, an enemy of the Russian state.
It's essentially a criminal state now. It's a sovereign state run by a group of criminals. There's no reason why 141 million Russians should tolerate the 1,000 Russians who are stealing all the money from the country.
Bill Browder runs a company called Hermitage Capital. He used to manage multi-billion-dollar investments in Russia. But for the past 6 years, Browder has been fighting a dangerous war with the Russian state from right here in London. It's a war that's tapped into fears about Russian criminality in the UK.
Alexander Litvinenko, himself a former KGB agent and a vocal critic of President Putin, was poisoned with radioactive material.
A wealthy Russian banker is in a coma in hospital under armed guard after being shot several times on the street near his home.
The exiled Russian businessman Boris Berezovsky has been found dead at his home in Berkshire. He was 67.
For Browder, it's a personal crusade, and it's causing a diplomatic storm. It's a war which has already drawn in President Obama and could make things very uncomfortable for the UK government. And this is where it started, Moscow. It used to be home to Bill Browder's firm, Hermitage Capital, until the company got on the wrong side of the Russian state. In 2007, the Russian Interior Ministry raided the offices of Hermitage and its lawyers.
I heard some commotion at reception, and I went to reception, and there were 20 plainclothes officers from the Minister of Interior with a search warrant. And then it just went really off the rails from there.
The Russian Interior Ministry said they were investigating allegations of tax evasion. The police seized computers, documents, and company seals. After the raids, Hermitage asked a legal advisor called Sergei Magnitsky to investigate. Alarming details began to emerge. 3 Hermitage companies now had different owners. it appeared that the companies had been stolen.
We said, well, how is it possible that our companies could have been re-registered? What does one need for re-registration of companies? And he said the stamps, seals, and certificates of registration, which were exactly the documents that were seized by the police. He said, well, it gets worse. The documents that were seized by the police were also used to forge and fabricate $1 billion of backdated contracts to claim that our companies owed $1 billion to 3 empty shell companies.
3 of its companies apparently stolen and saddled with $1 billion of fake debts, all within months of the police raid on its offices. For Hermitage, it was clear. The police from the Russian Interior Ministry must have been involved. Hermitage had already begun to get ready for a fight.
One of our lawyers went to the police officers involved in the raid, and he said, we're on to you. We know that the companies were stolen. We know that these fake liabilities have been created. You're busted.
What happened next is disputed. Bratva says he was contacted by this man, Igor Sigurian. He's a Russian banker and owns a chain of restaurants in London. He's also reported to have close links with Russia's security services. Here he is in a Russian TV program about London.
Челси выиграли 1-0 сегодня.
Болеете уже как?
Да, конечно, наша команда. Наша команда, все наше здесь. Потихонечку все будет наше. Парламент пусть остается их, остальное все мы заберемся.
Bratva says Sigurian made him an unusual offer to shut down the 3 companies that had apparently been stolen from Hermitage.
I thought, how does he know about this stuff? All of a sudden, this guy shows up out of the blue. I don't know how he knew what was going on, but I thought it was extremely suspicious.
Did you accept his offer of help?
No, we rejected it outright. I thought it was weird, offensive, and you know, something I wanted to have nothing to do with.
But was Bratva being too suspicious? Sigurian told us he didn't know about the stolen companies until Hermitage asked him for help. There was nothing suspicious. The police had also raided his company. He was simply offering to help Hermitage and him find a legal way of addressing their problems. 2 weeks after Bratva rejected Sigurian's offer of help, a crime took place that continues to reverberate around the world. The new owners of the 3 Hermitage companies submitted fraudulent claims for enormous tax refunds. That very same day, the Russian tax authorities approved the refunds. $220 million was paid out. It remains one of the biggest tax frauds in Russian history. After details of the fraud emerged, Bratva informed the UK's ambassador in Russia.
It's quite a startling story. Over $200 million stolen from the Russian state by basically people working in the Russian Interior Ministry, which is obviously appalling.
Bratva's legal advisor, Sergei Magnitsky, had begun to allege possible connections between the police raids on Hermitage and the tax fraud. Within months, he was arrested. According to the Russians, Hermitage and Magnitsky had been involved in dodging millions in Russian tax. While in prison, Magnitsky wrote countless letters complaining about his conditions. They reveal a shocking picture of mistreatment.
Sewage started to rise from the drain under the sink. Several times I have seen rats running along the corridor. The pain became so acute that I was not even able to lie down.
Magnitsky developed pancreatitis in prison, but his mother says he was repeatedly denied medical treatment.
He was told, "You are not in a health resort, and we are not obliged to treat you." He didn't get to see a doctor for a month.
After 358 days in pre-trial confinement, Magnitsky was finally transferred to a prison medical facility. but within hours of arriving there, he was dead.
I went to Matrosskaya prison and I asked them whether my son was there, and they told me that they had brought him there the night before and that he had died. So we weren't informed of his death.
The Russian authorities said he had died of heart failure, but the Kremlin's own Human Rights Council reached another conclusion.
He was not provided with medical care. His right to life was violated. When he was transferred to Matrosskaya prison hospital, he was not given any medical care, and as a result he died.
Was Sergei Magnitsky killed?
I think that Sergei Magnitsky was killed. Sergei Magnitsky exposed fraud, massive fraud, corrupt fraud in Russia, in which top representatives of the Russian authorities are involved. That is why the authorities are not interested. They do not want to disclose the details of Sergei Magnitsky's death.
The Russians deny that Magnitsky was killed. They've also cleared state officials of involvement in the tax fraud and have instead accused Magnitsky himself of being involved. It's a belief that few outside Russia seem to share.
Magnitsky was working for a British company. He exposed the fraud on behalf of Hermitage Capital. He was, in effect, killed for doing a proper lawyer's job. All of that, of course, is indefensible.
Since Magnitsky's death, Bill Browder has been on a ceaseless campaign against the Russian state.
The morning that Sergei died, after I recovered from the initial shock, I was so upset and so angry that I said to myself, for Sergei, for his memory, and for his family, I'm going to make sure that we get justice for him. And that was my vow to him, and I've carried on ever since.
Browder has been true to his word. He's in Berlin to lobby the German government about the Magnitsky case.
We're just heading now to the Chancellery, Angela Merkel's building, to meet with her senior advisor on Russia.
What are they saying currently?
They're saying the same thing as every other country says at the beginning of any of these conversations, which is we have to do business with Russia, we have to engage with Russia, we don't want to do anything that's going to upset Russia. I'm saying you can have perfectly good relations with Russia, just don't let their torturers and murderers come into Germany.
Browder is convinced Sergei Magnitsky was silenced and wants the Europeans to pass legal sanctions against the people he believes were involved. It might seem like a tall order for a private citizen, but Browder has already persuaded the US government to do precisely that.
Today we open a new chapter in the U.S. leadership for human rights with the Sergei Magnitsky Rule of Law Accountability Act.
Last December, President Obama signed the Magnitsky Act, which has seen Russian officials associated with the Magnitsky case named and barred from entering the US. For Browder, it's a provocative and dangerous strategy, and it's brought the threat of violence to his staff in the UK.